Welcome to The Payoff, the podcast where small business owners who have zero clue what they're doing come for thought-provoking stories of how hard work, sweat equity, and dumb luck created wins for successful business leaders who learned how a little investment, access to secrets no one shares, and a Texas-sized hell yeah, bring it on, paid off. I'm your host, Cynthia Nevels, the CEO of Integrality and a senior business advisor for the Goldman Sachs 1 Million Black Women program. Every week, my team of experts and I will dive deep into the toughest challenges facing entrepreneurs and provide you with the actionable insights and answers to secrets you've always wanted to know that can help your business not only survive, but thrive. Welcome to The Payoff. On today's episode, we'll be exploring the world of e-commerce businesses, particularly in the United States and cross-border trading. I'm very interested in this topic, and I'm thrilled to have a special guest with me, Maria Luisa, who is the Vice President of UPS's Global Public Affairs, to the show. We're going to discuss what she's seeing in the arena and to provide valuable insights and secrets on how you can scale an e-commerce business for growth. And so, Maria, welcome to The Payoff.
Cynthia, thank you so much. I'm so excited and humbled to be here, and hopefully that we're able to give information to the audience that is useful.
I hope so as well. So I am so excited about this e-commerce trend that I've been reading about. I had the former executive director of the Small Business Administration regional office on a show, and he was sharing with us how much money SBA is pouring into international trade and encouraging more American-based businesses to trade across borders. And I just want to know what is going on in this e-commerce world.
Oh, my dear Cynthia, it is so true. So, of course, I'm with UPS with logistics and moving. And I think during the pandemic, we saw changes in 9 months in e-commerce that we thought were going to take like 10 years. It just happened faster. And so what that did is open the opportunity for businesses to connect with customers that they never thought they could connect. And that's where e-commerce really took off and gives the opportunity to be able to sell your goods in other locations. So we're seeing a growth, not only selling, maybe you were selling locally, but maybe across the state or across the states, and then also exporting to other places. And so the numbers are growing. And just to put it into perspective, it has been a big change in not only the e-commerce, the selling and exporting, but also the usage of credit cards and how do you handle payments and inventory management. All of those things have been changing in the past 5 years.
So you all are a major corporation, you're a global corporation. You move packages and other things across state lines and internationally as well. And so how do you help small businesses become comfortable with trading across borders?
Oh, Cynthia, it is. I think this is one of the things that we're very passionate about because when you are going to trade up across borders, you really have to know your product, right? You have to know who you're selling to, and you have to understand what are the logistics of moving across. And so we spend a lot of time educating our small, medium-sized business owners about what to expect, how to prepare, and really have, like, I love what you were saying, some tips in terms of how do you prepare best so that your good makes it on time to your customer. So we're doing education. We're making certain that if you're doing business with us or whoever you do business, but for us, it's very important that we do it on time, that we have all the compliance information. That's my trade nerdiness that comes out, and that you're able to give your customer a good experience. So we really have positioned ourselves to be their partners.
That's excellent because often when I talk to e-commerce executives who have seen astronomical growth in selling products across borders, and they're venturing into new countries that they have never visited or have never seen before. There's a bit of apprehension and fear that will my package make it? And is it going to cost me a lot to be able to serve customers in other countries? And so they often may not have that resource that is providing the guidance and the education that they need to make sure that they understand what they're doing.
Oh, you're so right. And that's why for us, for example, another thing that we do is making certain that we educate the small business owners about the resources that are available for them. We partner a lot with the US Department of Commerce and their commercial services piece that really goes hand in hand with the small business owners. SBA has a great program for international, for small businesses that are thinking to exporting. Exim Bank, which people sometimes businesses don't know about this. Exim Bank provides accounts receivable insurance for small businesses that are exporting up to 90%, which is huge if you imagine for the cash flow, right? So those things are something that we are very intentional about helping our customers and small businesses to be aware of. From a UPS perspective, one of the biggest challenges when you're going to another country is understanding what are you required to present when you're going to move into there, right? Does your product touch skin or goes inside? Then you're going to need a certificate. You're going to need something. So all of those things we help them understand.
That's very good. And so when we're looking at scaling and growing and expanding small businesses, so let's say we start off here in Dallas, Texas. We've saturated our market here locally. Would you recommend to a business, in your personal opinion, would you recommend to a business, hey, you're doing well in Dallas, jump and start selling into Chile or sell into Costa Rica? Or do you recommend continue to build out your customer base in the US and expand across states and then look into international markets? What's your preference?
I say it depends on the product that you have. If you have done your homework about do you have a good market that you think in Chile or in Mexico or in Colombia, or we can go to Europe or Asia, then make certain that you have done your homework. And the second one, which we see a lot, Cynthia, is can you manage the inventory of this? Because then let's say you sell, right? And you start selling and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I run out of space in my garage, or do I have enough
Mhm.
space to have the amount? And so I do think you have to be thoughtful about it. Though it is risky, but small business owners are risky in nature, right? That's why they're small business owners. But
Yeah.
do your homework before you take that jump. At some point, some depending on the product and your inventory, sometimes we recommend try to sell across the state first and see if you can manage right that inventory. But if you have a good market opportunity and you can export, we have a great trade agreement between the US, Mexico, and Canada. So maybe you want to go to Mexico or you want to go to Canada. There's good facilitative measures that you can take advantage of. Then do that. Make certain that you have your inventory and that you have asked all the right questions.
Okay, so this leads me to the question as to are there more favorable countries than others when it comes to shipping and selling across borders, products in particular?
So I think the answer varies depending on your product, right? One. Two, and I'll explain why in a little moment. The second is depending if the U.S. has a trade agreement with the country of destination, that definitely is an advantage that you should take advantage, that you should leverage. And the third one is also managing your if how what kind of customer experience can you give to your customers. And so the first one depends on the product. Is if you have a highly regulated product and you need a lot of certificates, you have to go to a country where you feel comfortable that whoever is, if you're going direct to customer or you're selling to someone that is going to distribute, to make certain that they're going to be a good partner to help you get all the certificates, all the licenses that you're needed. And so having a regulated product, you really have to be very thoughtful about that part. The second one is if you choose a country where the US has a trade agreement, that is very beneficial because that means you're going to be paying less taxes. and less duties, import duties. That's always good for the cash flow of the small business owner. So look at those advantages that you have. I also think in this category, the language is a big deal. If you're going to export to a country that is the product has to be labeled in, I don't know, in Spanish, in Vietnamese, in French, can you do it, and do you feel comfortable with that? So do you have to take those things into consideration? And then the last thing is making certain that you have that experience of the consumer, understanding that the customer goes in, buys it, and I'm excited, I'm going to get my new, I don't know, pair of shoes or whatever. And then what is that experience for them to get it, right? And so that you have the right partner to help you to arrive on time. And this is not a commercial. No matter where you go, you have to have that experience that you can manage with the customer. And also, if you're going to a country that the customers are used to having returns, we in America, we here in the US, we love our returns, right? Not all the countries it's easy to do that. So you have to come to terms and have a clear message before you do that to your customer that no returns allowed, or we give you a refund but you don't have to return it, right? Because that becomes very expensive for small businesses if you're sending to Asia or other parts of the world, if that makes sense.
Yes, these are excellent points, actually, that some small businesses may not think about if they're considering to venture into other countries, the costs that are associated with it, as well as the business processes that have to be in place in order for them to be prepared to sell, but then also to ensure that they can provide quality customer support and service for them as well.
Yes,
And then I didn't think about the language, right? And being
I
able to
know.
translate your processes and your products into the language of the country that you're wanting to sell to. And so those are really valid points that people should be aware of and think of and be prepared for, I believe. Excellent.
Definitely. And also, one thing to have in mind, which I love about the resources that we have available here in the United States, you can leverage the embassy, the US embassy in the country where you're going. When you're working with the Department of Commerce, they will connect you with a trade person that they have at the embassy, and they usually help you because the other concern sometimes is, what if I don't get paid, right? I mean, I don't know the person, I'm selling this. They help you to do some homework. So it's always good to go to those resources and feel that you're not alone. Like you have a team around you that can support you.
I love this. And so, are there any stories on your level within UPS? You may not have that one on one touch and relationship with customers, but are there any rags to riches stories where a US based business did utilize international sales in order to scale or grow their business?
Yes, I have stories. And you know what? I was thinking of a story of a business from Mexico exporting to the US, and I want to tell it just because this applies to US businesses too that have exported. Um, we have this lady who does jewelry and takes pictures. She was exporting, and she takes the picture and then turns it into a jewelry. And in the description that she had on inventory, she said elephant. And so the officer that was going through the transaction thought that she had a piece of elephant in the jewelry, and that caused a whole deal of course, needless to say, the jewelry never made it through customs on that part. But I bring it up because, and they were not working with us to clarify that. When she came to us, we were going through that part. We do have stories on that part, and this happens when our U.S. Also our customers are exporting. You have to make certain that you have done your homework about doing a good description of what that you're exporting, and that you work with the right partner, because once you do that, then you're able to expand. And so that's where we do have the examples of the small businesses that have started small. We have a customer in North Carolina that actually does furniture and decided to do, you have heard probably about nearshoring and doing some stuff in some of the materials in Mexico, and then come back to the US and sell it. They've been able to do it, and we've been able to support them in that area. And what we do is helping them go through. We sit down what our supply chain solutions and find out, okay, you need this type of inventory. You're going to have this movement. Let's find out ways to do it and make it happen. So I don't know if those are good examples, but just sharing with you some stories of what we are seeing and how we sit down with the business and help them scale.
No, this is excellent because what we want our listeners and viewers to be able to process and understand is that it's possible and that you don't have to do it alone. So, what I've heard you say is that there are three potential organizations that can help you when you're looking at how do I build out my international sales. One, the embassy could provide support and education. The Department of Commerce is another that provide support in education and assistance, technical assistance
Yep.
as well. And then if you choose to ship with UPS, you all provide education and assistance to ensure that they set it up properly and know what they're doing.
Yes. Yep, that's correct. I will add to the Department of Commerce, Exim Bank, and SBA to help you look for financial support with insurance and accounts receivable. Because I always think of the cash flow from us, from UPS, will be your partner for every step of the way to help you understand what to expect, how to better manage your inventory, and make certain that you're ready for
Attention
that
small business owners. Is your website outdated or is your marketing falling short, costing you valuable customers? At Mad Mind Studios, we specialize in creating custom websites and marketing strategies that drive results. Right now, we're offering a free consultation and marketing audit to help you get on track. Don't miss out on this opportunity to elevate your business. Visit madmindstudios.com or call us today at 310-402-1613 to schedule your free consultation. Mad Mind Studios, where your growth is our business.
This is all excellent because one of the things is, again, I'll mention the word fear, fear of the unknown. If you've always lived in the US, you've not really experienced trade outside of the US, and you are uncertain of how it works, you may tell yourself that it's not possible, or you may not think of it as an option for a growth strategy. But the companies that I have seen who have been open to selling into other areas outside of the US have astronomical revenue growth as long as they can control their costs. And one of those costs, of course, is going to be your shipping costs, but there's packaging as well. And then there is, of course, your labor that's involved. And you have insurance, and there's so many costs that are involved that sometimes may sway others from trying to sell their products internationally. So when we talk about fear, what do you tell people?
Don't be afraid. Know where you are and what you're doing. And I know, my dear Cynthia, having a little bit of fear is healthy, right? As a small business that is thinking to export, because that fear moves you to prepare you best. And so I think that is something that it is scary. That's why sometimes we recommend start if you feel comfortable with the language, right? Start with a country that maybe is also in English, so you can have that peace of mind that you can manage and understand the language. But surround yourself with the right team, right? Be certain to connect with commercial services. Make certain that you have touch base with SBA and Exim Bank. Have the right partner, logistics partner that knows where you're going. If you work with someone maybe to save money, but they have never been in that country, that's a concern, right? Because if something happens, you want to know who can I call to make certain that they can process. One of the things that you were mentioning, what we have seen is for some businesses, exporting is a good hedging financially, because maybe their local market is not doing that well, but they can export to other locations, and that helps them with the cash flow on that part. So that is something that can help. The other part I mentioned, cash flow, and part of that fear too, you do need to have a healthy financial backup, right? And so that's where Exim Bank helps you too with letters of credit, and when you're doing the financing with the banks, so that you have a good cash flow, because maybe your invoice payment is going to take 60 days or 120 days. And if it is international, that might be make certain that you have clear rules about what to expect. There's a saying in Spanish, I'm going to say it in Spanish and then I'll try to translate that is, cuentas claras, chocolate espeso. That means if you have all the cards on your table and understanding, you have a better understanding of what to expect. And that manages the fear.
I love that. And we often talk at Start, Pivot, Grow about preparation, making sure that you have written out your processes, that you have a full understanding of your workflow and what needs to be included, what systems you need, what human resources you need to pull it off as well, like building the foundational capacity to ensure that you deliver so that you're not ruining your brand and your company by trying to do something that you're not ready to do.
Yeah. And I think you appreciate this because you're also a small business owner in a way. You need to learn when to delegate, right? That's a big challenge. You know your product, that's your baby. You came with the idea, that's awesome, but you might not be the best in the packaging or the communication or something like that, right? So make certain to know when you need to ask for help and surround yourself with that team because that helps you be more effective.
That's very true. Very true. And so when we talk about different countries that we want to trade in and cross-border trading, I want to go back to the question as to you talked about choose perhaps the first country is a country that utilizes the English language so that it's not as difficult to enter. And then we talked about choosing one that is, I think you mentioned already a partner with the U.S.
Trade agreements, yes. A country that has a trade agreement with the U.S. And by the way, to clarify the English language is because if you have to label your product, again, you need to make certain that you're able to label in all the languages that are needed. So
that's right. That's the reason, because you can trade anywhere.
Yes.
Start where you're comfortable.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, secondarily, we would work with potentially countries that have trade agreements with the U.S. And then we venture out into farther countries where we may not be as familiar. There may be a need for translation, printed translation as well as verbal as well. And so these are things that the small business owner will want to be prepared for and probably raise capital in order to pay for consulting services to help them with that.
Exactly. And I think that's where the commercial services from the U.S. Department of Commerce helps you. And they do have different levels and I don't know at what point do they have a fee or something, but they actually do a research with you as a business of what do you need, right? And so because you will need legal, you will need financial, you will need different services if you're going to a country that you have a good market and there's a good option of selling, but you want to make certain that you have done your homework to your point about having the right information in front of you because you want to make certain that you're able to maintain the operations at least for a year, right? 6 months to a year, have enough cash flow that is going to help you from that point. Obviously, sell first, right? Make certain that you have a buyer. And if you're doing B2B, business to business, who you're doing business with, the embassy will help you to do some of that research on that part. You're not alone. I know maybe you're a personality that has always been doing it alone. I was a single parent. I get it. However, make certain that you understand that you can ask for help and that can make you smarter in that process.
So we often talk about hard work, sweat equity, strategy, as well as capital are the four ingredients to help a small business owner ensure that it pays off for them. Is there any advice that you would offer to a small business owner when they are looking at their options for growth and scaling outside of what we shared today?
I think that the one thing that we haven't talked about, and that's what at UPS we're very good at, is make certain that you have the right package. And I know how can you say of all of this packaging, but packaging makes a big difference, right? In terms of your product arriving in the way that you want the customer to open it up and feel like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I wanted or what I bought through the internet. And that's something that at UPS we take very, very seriously to make certain that you have package your good to make certain that it's going to survive the whole journey, right? Think about it. It's going to be moving through different boxes and planes, automobiles, and what is that? The movie Train, Planes, and Automobiles is going to make it through everything. So I think that is something, as you think about exporting, that you need to have that. Think about the real logistics in terms of the packaging and how the package is going to make it to your customer, so that you have the best experience, because that customer is going to help you get other customers, right? That's how it works. And then the second one is social media. I tell you, Cynthia, the other explosion for e-commerce has been how small businesses are selling through social media. That's the way to go. And so make certain that you have your nephew or kids or anyone helping you with that social media communication, responding on customer questions, but also at the same time connecting, right? Hearing your story, because customers today are very different than customers 15 years ago.
That's very true. That's excellent advice. And so, Maria, how did you get so smart? Yeah, you have.
My dear Cynthia, that's so fun. No, I actually am so passionate about micro and small, medium-sized enterprises. My grandmother, believe it or not, she didn't know how to read or write, but she loved numbers. She was from rural Colombia, moved to the city, and she started her own, once she saved money, her own grocery store. And was selling just with memory and the numbers, because she did. And so I believe in entrepreneurship. And in UPS, we started with $100 and 2 bikes, if you can believe it. And so really, we started as a small micro business. And so it's exciting to be part of that journey. So I am passionate about it.
I love that. And kudos to your grandmother. That is so phenomenal. You're welcome.
Thank you, Cynthia.
I appreciate you so much for your time. I want to share with our viewers and our listeners that Start.Pivot.Grow is here to build better businesses. And we appreciate it when experts such as Maria join us to share insights on how things work and how it pays off if you are prepared and you do the work in order to grow and scale your business. And so I appreciate you, Maria, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, and thank you for having this important program.
Thank you for tuning in to The Payoff. Now you know what to do. Go ahead and hit the like or subscribe button, or leave us a review and let us know your thoughts on the latest discussion. We have more secrets to share, so stay tuned for another episode. We'll keep sharing how business leaders turn challenges into opportunities week after week.